All right, so you are tuned in, you are watching, you are doing whatever you are. This is World Cup 2026 Extra Time. My name is Steven Rabinowitz. We took a day off yesterday just to kind of regroup. Had a little 4th of July stuff going on, recovering from 4th of July, having another party. So we were off yesterday, or we didn't do a video yesterday, but today we're going to recap the weekend that was in the World Cup for the first set of round of 16 games. And then we'll talk about the next four, which are happening today and tomorrow. All right, so let's quickly go through Saturday's games. No surprises. Canada, Morocco. Morocco wins 3-0. Unahi scores in the 50th minute and 82nd minute. Rahimi notches one in the end of the game. Canada did win the expected goal battle, 0.84 to 0.82. We're the better team in the first half. They kind of showed their speed, but just never able to get on the board, and that was pretty much that. Canada was trying to play a little more aggressive in this game. They did all that they could, but in the end, Morocco just made the most of their very few chances, only 5 shots on goal. Did did lead in possession, but Morocco just played smarter football, in my opinion. And even though Canada's coach Jesse March said that I'd rather be us than them, and we were the better team, optics say if you lose 3-0, that doesn't really work for us. That doesn't really work. And optics say that if you have a game like they did, and you don't put anything in the back of the net, it's still a loss. I think this was a net positive for Canada this World Cup, but um, they just didn't really have enough offense out there. Alfonso Davies was still injured. Later said it was his own decision to not go into the game, even in the second half against Morocco. And Canada just did not have enough firepower in this game. Would I rather be Canada or Morocco? I'd rather be Morocco. They're the first ever African nation to make two World Cup quarterfinals, and they will look to get themselves into the semifinals coming up on Thursday, and their opponent will be France. Yeah, France took care of Paraguay 1-0. This was an interesting game because of the fact that we knew what Paraguay's MO was going to be during the game. Defend like hell and be more physical. And they did both of those things very, very, very well. In fact, the only goal that France scores is in the 70th minute on a penalty shot for Kylian Mbappe. But France, again, they tried everything that they could. 3-1 in shots. Expected goals, Paraguay was 0.13, France was 1.45. Over 4-1 in chances created, over 6-1 in corners. And Paraguay just played, I don't think they played dirty, but I think they played as tough as they could in this game. Low block, frustrate France, and just provoke France as much as they possibly could. This is the way you're going to have to win when you don't have the bigger talent. But you saw a couple of points during the game, and Mbappe was just being harassed. Like a Paraguayan midfielder looked across Mbappe and tried to just knock him down to the floor, and nothing was called. In fact, the only team that was called for a yellow card during this game was France 3 times. But overall, Paraguay didn't get a yellow card, but again, got the biggest one of the biggest play of the game, which was the penalty in the 70th minute as Doué from France just comes in. Gomez, the defender, makes knee-to-knee contact, clearly brings him down. Paraguay says, "Oh, this is a dive." It wasn't a dive, and France converts on the one opportunity that they can. It does provide a little bit of a game plan for Morocco, which we'll talk about on Wednesday when we preview that matchup. But that's not Morocco's style, and we'll see how Morocco can kind of overcome a stronger team, but a team that they just played in the World Cup semifinals in 2022. But France and Morocco is the first confirmed quarterfinal, and we had the other confirmed quarterfinal yesterday. So that will be Thursday in Boston, by the way, that game. Saturday in Miami, the two teams have been set. The first team is Norway. We talked about it a couple on the show on Saturday. I thought Norway was primed to get the upset here, and that's exactly what they did. This really started off in the 14th minute when Brazil gets a penalty shot. They don't have Neymar take it. They have Bruno Guimaraes take it. Bruno is the guy who will usually take the penalty shots for them, and he misses, I believe, their first penalty shot. Non-penalty shootout related in a very long time. I think I saw the 80s was the last time that Brazil failed to convert on a penalty shot. And that really sets up the game. Norway was the better team out there. They had over 2-1 possession. Now, Brazil's expected goals was insane. It was 2-6-1. They had chances, but they were headed shots. But I think Norway just wasn't afraid of France. And eventually, Norway knew we're going to be able to come on through. And of course, when you have the best goal scorer when you have the best pure goal scorer in the entire world, Erling Haaland, and a monster like that, it's going to happen for you. Scores at the 79th minute, comes back and then scores again in the 90th minute. Neymar, who came in actually in its clutch situation, it was like the 70th, it was right before the second hydration break, does get the penalty to kind of see off his international career, which ended after this game. Neymar said he will not be playing for the Brazilian national team again. Scores in the 90th plus 10. Literally, that was not enough time. And Norway goes through. Norway, we predicted it in the beginning. We thought this team would surprise. And here they are. They are a quarter finalist in the World Cup. They have just taken on. You thought the France game would derail them a little bit. I thought they looked sluggish in the Ivory Coast game. Today, they look like the better team out there. And Brazil is just not been able to solve these European teams in here. Croatia 4 years ago. It was Belgium before that. It was Germany before that. UEFA has had a problem with Brazil has had a problem with UEFA, and it happens again here. When you have a guy like Erling Haaland, you're never out of a game. You're never down in a game. This was a great performance, and Erling Haaland leads the Viking row afterwards. Brazil, what do you do? I don't know. Like, this generation is now so completely removed. This is the longest Brazil has ever gone in a World Cup drought. It is since 2002 in Japan. They haven't even made a World Cup final since then. And now they've lost one of their first real big competitive matches in North American World Cup history. So I'm not sure what Brazil does from here. You can argue Vinny Jr. should have been taking the penalty, but even then, they still were never able to really find the back of the net that whole entire game. So Brazil's got some work to do. Then we had Mexico, England, and this match was fudging bonkers. One of the craziest games I've ever seen in a World Cup game, really regular game. This game starts an hour late because of weather. We had heard earlier in the week that this game could have possibly been moved back. It didn't. It stayed exactly where it was. The atmosphere is insane. It's like you're hearing boos every single time England has the ball. Mexico has a 2-1 possession advantage, but it doesn't really matter because Jude Bellingham exists. And he scores in the 36th minute and then does it again in the 38th minute, scoring the quickest brace in England World Cup history. And I think in World Cup history itself, selling and doing it in basically 90 seconds. This was a game where chances were basically converted, especially in the first half. And then England was really good at points in this game. England was as unified as you possibly can. But the points where they were sloppy, they got paid. They kind of paid for it. And they pay for it on a free kick literally 4 minutes after the Bellingham play. Quinones basically converts, gets the header off of the free kick. Okay, now it's 2-1. And then, again, bonkers. Early on, benches clear. We have so many yellow cards in this game. I think what did we end up having? We only had six yellow cards. It's surprising, but we had yellow cards with people on the bench in this game. And then we had Kansa, the two benches kind of voted each other, and it's Kansa who has a foul in the 54th minute, and England all of a sudden is playing with 10 men pretty much through the entire first half for the second half. And what's funny is in the beginning of that, and then after that penalty, what does England do? But they get their first really good chance, and then Harry Kane gets fouled. And England gets fouled right in the box, and Harry Kane converts the penalty. So England now has the 3-0, a 3-1 advantage, but still they have 10 men. They're in a hostile environment. You're hearing about the altitude. The weather's not an issue because the rain happening earlier in the day, and it was raining lightly during the game as well. And then Raul Jimenez gets a penalty from Harry Kane in the box, first ever World Cup player to convert a penalty and then commit a penalty, convert a penalty shot, and then be the reason for a penalty shot immediately following. This game was it's almost hard to explain how big of a win this was. England played by far their best defensive game at 3-2. Really, the next 5 minutes was just an insane amount of just doing everything. And then it comes into just an insanely great defensive performance. I don't really think now Mexico had every advantage known to mankind here. 4-1 in chances created, 6-1 in corners, again 2-1 in possessions. They do end up getting 14 fouls during this game, but it really seemed like until we really got into extra time and like the late moments of extra time that Mexico didn't really have great chances out there because so much happened. Byrne from England was insane. I believe he is the first player to have as many clearances that he had. He had six clearances in what was essentially 25 minutes of action, which is insane. Not enough words to describe England and Mexico. I think Mexico should not be ashamed of all. They did as much as they could in this game. They really just had one huge defensive lapse with the Bellingham brace, and it sucks for them to be out in the round of 16 again in a World Cup, but they had one of their more successful World Cups out there, and this was a team that has a lot more to come, I think, in future World Cups. I would be very, very scared of this team 2030 and beyond. But England moves on. England and Norway, an all UEFA quarterfinal in Miami. Interesting to see those two teams, two of the paciest white teams out there, going down to Miami. They will play the first game on Saturday. So each team will have a full 5 days to rest, which is rare at this point in the competition. We'll see what happens. The two teams that win today will only have 3 days to rest because they will play Friday in LA. So let's talk about the games today and tomorrow. Let's quickly look at them. Spain, Portugal. They'll play at 3 o'clock in Dallas. Spain obviously beat Austria 3-0 in the quarterfinal in the round of 32 on Thursday. Later that day, Portugal beat Croatia 2-1. This is the 42nd meeting between Spain and Portugal. They've only met once. They've met twice in the World Cup. They met in 2010, 1-0 for Spain, and then they had a 3-3 draw in 2018 in the Russia World Cup. They played in the Nations League final just last year. Portugal won that 5-3 on penalties. Spain is not dynamic and destructive as they were when they won in 2024, but they are still seasoned. They may not be the favorite right now. I think a lot of people would probably put them third. I still think people would put France and maybe even Argentina just because of the draw that they have ahead of them. But Portugal, can they, I don't want to say overcome Cristiano Ronaldo, but Ronaldo has still been kind of a little bit of a drag for a team that should be as talented as a top five team in this World Cup. And I don't think I've really seen that, especially in the Croatia game, where they were on their heels a lot. Ronaldo did have his first World Cup knockout goal, did take it on a penalty shot. but it was really just hair from Croatia that caused this which gave the offsides, which allowed Portugal to win this as when they scored in stoppage time in the second half. I'll be interested to see what Mikel Oyarzabal does. He had a great game against Austria with 2 goals, 4 goals this tournament. 17 times in his last 16 starts he has scored for the national team. He is the center forward guy to look out for. And then Spain's defense, with Mexico now conceding, there's only one team who is not allowed a goal in this World Cup, and that's Spain, with Unai Simon breaking the 36-year-old record for most consecutive minutes without conceding at the World Cup. It's 519 and counting now. But Portugal is the firepower that Spain has definitely not seen in any of their games so far. Didn't see it against Cape Verde. Obviously, didn't really see it against Austria. Didn't even really see it against Uruguay. So we'll see what happens. This is going to be a war out there. I think Spain wins it 2-1. I think they will finally concede, but get excited for this game. All right. Obviously, the main event tonight is US Belgium. They play 8 p.m. in Seattle. US beat Bosnia 2-0 on Wednesday. 10 men for pretty much 30 minutes of the rest of the game. And obviously, if you didn't see it beforehand, Belgium beat Senegal 3-2, scoring 2 goals late in the second half at the 85th and 88th minute. Then they score pretty much at the death of extra time, scoring on a penalty shot. Okay, so let's just get out the history between these two teams. 5-2, they've played each other 7 times. They played in a friendly back in late March. Belgium won 5-2. They played twice in the World Cup. The first World Cup in 1930, US won 3-0. That's their only straight up win against them. And obviously the game in 2014 where Tim Howard had what was initially the most saves in the World Cup until the goalkeeper for Curacao, I believe, just beat that a couple of weeks ago. But the US is going to play this game with a full roster because Flo Balagun, his red card was suspended by FIFA yesterday, much around this time, like around 11 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be controversial, just the timing of it. You would probably think this would be lesser timing, regardless of how it happened, regardless of what intervention happened from the president of the United States. I hate saying that. You would rather have seen a play that, again, as we've talked about, should have probably just been a yellow card, and most importantly, was enacted the wrong way. When VAR looked and saw still shots of it instead of seeing the play when you should be seeing it at regular speed in normal time on VAR, but seeing the still shots of where it went. Again, it had nothing to do with intent. It had to do with where the challenge was headed. And yes, intent does sometimes factor into it, but it had nothing to do with intent for the red card in terms of looking at it. You make a dangerous play like that, you have to send a message. But it should never have been enacted the way it was. And now, just like Cristiano Ronaldo, remember early, we talked about this in our preview, had his red card suspended till later. I think it was suspended up to a year. So he will probably have to have that enacted. He'll be able to not have it enacted at all for a year, but it could be enacted later on. Same with Balagun. This red card wasn't overturned; it was just suspended, kind of like a probationary period. You wonder if FIFA is going to at least try to do something like this in the future to kind of have more of a consistency to it. But again, it doesn't look great having this moment happen less than 36 hours before kickoff. You would rather have seen it happen the day after, so at least Belgium knows what they're playing against. And honestly, if this interaction happened without really any hint of anything happening, it might hurt the US too in terms of how they're going to tactically look at this game. You can't just say, oh, let's just tactically do what we were going to do beforehand and reenact the game plan 36 hours before. This could affect both sides. Let's just be fair over here. Let's talk about the battle itself. The U.S. trio of Tyler Adams, Wes McKinney, and Tillman have been dominating matches, and that's going to be a very huge key. Can they overcome and outplay a much older Belgian team, including midfielder Kevin De Bruyne? And they very much can and should. US has the athleticism, Belgium has the experience. Belgium can easily play out of danger and really have the possession sequences. And again, that's what the defense is going to get tested. And I think that's still, even though you saw a great job against Bosnia of what they did, they looked impressive defensively against Bosnia. That's not going to be the case. You're not going to see that exact same defense against Belgium because, and also Belgium's attacking players. If they get space coming in, playing through pressure, the U.S. will be in trouble. Belgium's goalkeeper, Thibaut Courtois, is one of the best players out there in the World Cup in terms of the goalie position. He is a Real Madrid star, extremely decorated. He has World Cup experience. He has Champions League final experience. And then, of course, you just look and see Belgium. They're never really out of a game. They were down 2-0 in the 85th minute of the round of 32 game. They miraculously scored twice late in extra time, and then they get the penalty in stoppage time and win. I'm gonna just stick with the guns that I had before this World Cup. I said it before and I said it again. The US look really good. Belgium look really good. I think, honestly, I almost want to change my opinion because I think US has looked better than Belgium. Belgium has looked boring at times. But I think the Belgium that you're about to see now is enough motivated with all of the stuff that's happened over the last 36 hours, over the last 24 hours, that I think they're gonna get the job done here tonight. And if I have to say, gun to my head, I think this is a game that goes into extra time and Belgium wins it 2-1. Almost exact carbon copy of how it happened in 2014. That's just me saying it. I honestly have gone back and forth on this. I got back and forth with this before the Balagun reinstatement. It's going to be a very good game though, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the U.S. can do in a big match against a big opponent because they played good, but the opponents right now. I know Paraguay made the final 16, but their offense is not on the same level as Belgium. And obviously, the best team that they had played offensively, I think, was really Turkey. And you didn't really get to see what the defense that they were actually going to play against was because they basically only really started two regulars. So we'll see what happens. That game, again, is in Seattle tonight. Let's quickly go over the final two games that'll be tomorrow Argentina and Egypt, 12 p.m. in Atlanta. Argentina, you all people had said they had such an easy path to the World Cup semifinal. And then they just delivered again one of the games of this World Cup in a 3-2 extra time victory where three goals are scored in extra time. That almost never happens. Egypt wins a penalty shootout 1-1, winning the penalty shootout against Australia. Australia made a lot of weird decisions in that, but Egypt was the better team out there. These two teams have played before, shockingly enough. A 2-0 friendly win in 2008 and a 6-0 victory in the semifinals of the 1928 Summer Olympics. 1928. Okay, Argentina looked to be cruising, obviously, against that Cape Verde game, but obviously you have the goal bonanza that happened. You'd worry for Argentina. They haven't really played the biggest competition, and they haven't been able to keep clean sheets against pretty much anybody in this World Cup, especially Jordan and Cape Verde. And that would worry you, but the offense is just as good as it's ever been. Lionel Messi is looking just to become the sixth player in history to score in his team's first 5 games at a World Cup. Believe it or not, the last person to do it is still in this tournament. We'll talk about him next, and James Rodriguez of Colombia. Mo Salah has created 16 opportunities for his teammates in the World Cup. That's insane. Mo Salah is really just the point guard of this tournament. Salah was a little concerned because of a hamstring injury, but he played the entire game against Australia and converted a penalty in the penalty shootout. He can match the record for an African player for chances created, Kevin Prince Boateng for Ghana in 2010. Had 18 chances created for his entire team, and they went out in the round of 8. Argentina They're a team that loves to be played to the death. They have won 10 of their last 12 matches that have gone past 90 minutes. They've won four non-shootout victories and six shootout victories. Egypt, another defensive worry team. Ironically enough, Ghana is the last team to do it, but in each of their last six World Cup victories, they have scored and conceded a goal. And ironically enough, they've actually conceded more than they've scored. I like Argentina in here. Even though they have a tendency to play down to their opponent, I think they win here 3-1. Colombia, Switzerland, and a low-key banger tomorrow in Canada's last game of the World Cup. They'll play 4 p.m. in Vancouver. Switzerland has been living in Canada pretty much. They played their last three games in Canada. They played, I believe the game against Canada was in Toronto, but they played Algeria and Vancouver, and they'll play this game again in Vancouver. Colombia winning 1-0 themselves against Ghana in the round of 16 in Kansas City. Fifth meeting between the two teams. Colombia won in the group stage of the World Cup in 1994. Colombia won their last meeting in 2007, 3-1. The injuries are going to be huge. Joanne Cordoba ruled out of the rest of this tournament, had a severe hamstring strain, had to use a penalty shot 15 minutes in against Ghana. I believe it was the first matchup with Switzerland and Ghana where both teams had to use a sub within the first 20 minutes of the game in World Cup knockout history. So expect Luis Suarez to take his place. He assisted with the winner in the previous round and is expected to step up to lead the line on the front. Switzerland has Michael Abischer, who has been working to try to get off of a muscle injury. If he cannot feature from the start, they're going to have to kind of rely more on Grant Xhaka and Remo Freuler to really control the team. The strategic blueprint for Colombia is simple. Even though their defense has been freaking outstanding in this World Cup, but they're going to try to get wide avenues to kind of help their offense a little bit. Can Luis Diaz really on the left flank really help stretch the Swiss to really be able to make a mistake, which is what they're going to have to do. Switzerland's counter is going to be containment around structured counter offenses. They don't like to overcommit numbers. They like to kind of block and then use the form of Menzabi to kind of transition the ball efficiently into advanced positions. Again, I'll just go with what my previews were. I have Colombia as a World Cup semifinal team. It means I kind of don't want to have them lose here. 1-0 win over Switzerland. I think Colombia kind of wins the same way that they have pretty much this entire World Cup. We will be back tonight after the US-Belgium game. Will it be a happy recap and we'll see the US in the quarterfinals, or will it be the end of all three host nations in this World Cup? We'll see about that. We'll recap Portugal, Spain. I have a feeling that's going to be an instant classic as well. These big matchups in the World Cup have not disappointed. I don't expect that to change anymore. We'll talk to you later tonight. This is World Cup 2026 Extra Time on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.